Hey, this is WhyBeAre with BeamNG.drive, and today we're going to be going over update 0.5.3. And we're going to start things off by going to Grid Small Pure. The most interesting thing in this update to me are the new thermal simulations. So to show these off, I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of apps to the screen. First, we're going to add an engine thermal debug app, which is a new app that was added with this update. Then we're also going to add a 0 to 100 timer, which is a mod that I've had installed for quite a while. Now we're going to go ahead and change up the car, so let's go with a Grand Marshal Custom, but let's get a color on this because this map is already bland enough, so let's get like a crazy color like really super bright orange. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 0 to 100 test, and then I'm going to damage the engine and do the test again to see what kind of difference it makes. So this is the benchmark test to see how long it takes to get up to 100 miles per hour with this car, and it looks like it's going to take about 11 seconds or so. So 11.044 is the official time. To damage the engine, we are going to overheat the engine. To overheat the engine, we are going to remove the radiator so that the engine has no way to keep itself cool. Once the radiator is removed, all we need to do is do a donut or a burnout for a while, and eventually things will start to overheat. So that list of numbers on our left. Right now, the ones we're going to be focusing on are oil temperature, block temperature, and cylinder wall temperature. And then we're also going to be focusing on block damage, oil damage, cylinder wall damage, head gasket blown, piston rings damaged, and connecting rod bearings damaged. So right now, the block temperature is going up ever so slowly. Once it reaches a certain number, the block will start to incur damage. Once the block gets enough damage, the head gasket will blow. And I believe the number we're waiting on for the block is about 140 degrees Celsius. Once it reaches that number, you will start getting some block damage, and we are almost there. So right there, now the block is getting damaged, and since we have no radiator, it's kind of interesting. We can just stop here, and as long as the engine is running, we will still incur damage because they can't cool down the block. Even if we're just sitting here idling, it actually increased the temperature because there's no coolant flowing through this engine. It's just going to stay the temperature it is or even go hotter while idle. So once the block damage reaches a certain number, which is another 5 away, like I don't even know how many zeros there are, but once it says 1.5, then the head gasket will blow. And if the temperature was higher, the block damage would happen faster. But since it's just over 140 degrees Celsius, it's happening pretty slowly at the moment. But if I wanted it to happen faster, I could just, do some more donuts, and you'll see it pops up really fast. It might actually be more based on what rev the engine is running at versus the temperature in that situation. But either way, we now have a car with a blown head gasket, and we're going to do a 0 to 100 test with this car and see how long it takes. And the reason I did it like this with the overheating instead of trying to crash the car and cause damage, because you can also crash the car and cause damage to the engine, is because if you do it like this, the car is still fully functional, and the only part that's anyway damaged is the engine. So it makes it a lot easier to just test that specific thing. So with the blown head gasket, it was still able to get up to 100 miles per hour, but it took about 5 seconds more or so to do that. Now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing we were doing before, where we do a donut or a burnout or whichever way you prefer to overheat your car. And eventually the cylinder wall temperature will get too high. Once the cylinder wall temperature gets too high, the cylinder wall will get damaged. Once the cylinder wall is damaged, the piston rings will become damaged. And that will slow down the car even more. By the way, the order of things happening is kind of dependent on the vehicle. Because it's kind of interesting. If you get something like the Drag Moonhawk, I don't think the head gasket will be the first thing to blow. It just happens to be using this car, the first thing to blow was the head gasket, and then the next thing to get damaged will be the piston rings. And I know this because this is the car I tested things with earlier. But I didn't test how much it affected the speed, so that's what I'm kind of curious about at the moment. And I think cylinder wall, yep, it's starting to get damaged right now. I was about to say it's going to get damaged soon, but it's already happening. And you notice how fast the number's going up here because we are revving it high and increasing the temperature further as it's getting damaged, or as it's damaged already. So now we have 2 pieces of the car being damaged, and something you might notice that's also interesting is that this car is spewing out the back because of the damaged engine. And it's really cool actually, is the exhaust is actually going through the exhaust system. So if we, for example, rip this off like that, you see now, instead of going through the pipe, it just spews out from over there. But because it has 2 separate pipes going to the back, one of them still spews out exhaust over there, the other one spews out over there, so it's just a mess of a car at the moment. And now we're going to see how long it takes this thing to get to 100 miles per hour. I had to make sure I was in automatic mode because that's what I've been using this whole time. And I'm also using the keyboard for this just so I could just floor it entirely, because with a controller, you have that little split second where you're going from like the trigger being not pressed to pressed, so it goes like just for a second, not full throttle. With a keyboard, it's either full throttle or no throttle. So right there, with the blown head gasket and the damaged piston rings, it takes about double the time to reach 100 miles per hour. Now we could go back to donut mode once again, and we're going to wait for the oil to overheat. Once the oil overheats, the connecting rod bearings will get damaged. Well, first the oil will get damaged, then the connecting rod bearings will get damaged, and I believe the oil overheats there, right at 140. Oh, it doesn't, but it turned yellow at 140. I got my things mixed up. Eventually, though, the oil will get hot enough to cause oil damage. It has to be pretty soon, though, because it's already giving me a warning like, hey, this is getting too hot. Something bad's about to happen real soon, and you should probably look into it. There we go. Now oil damage is starting to occur, and we will have connecting rod bearings being damaged in a second. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put the audio up more because there is a sound for when this change happens, and I want you guys to be able to hear it, and it doesn't last for long. Because once the connecting rod bearings are damaged, the engine will fail real soon after that, it seems like. So just listen for that, okay? And the engine has failed. It was just barely able to get up to 100 miles per hour. I don't even know if it really hit 100 miles per hour on the speedometer. I didn't see it, but apparently it did hit it. And it took 25 seconds. That's 15 seconds more than it took with a fully healthy car. And now the engine is dead. Like, there is nothing you can do for this engine to have any sort of functionality. At this point, it's done. So now let's go ahead and go to a different map and show you how you could damage the engine by just crashing into things. And a great place to crash into things is, of course, grid map. Next thing I want to go over is what happens when you damage the radiator on a car. So we're going to grab the custom Bishu Pesma and just crash it into something at a pretty low speed, like about maybe 20 miles per hour or so. So, like so. And now you see on the top left it says radiator damage, and we have a thing right here that says coolant leak rate and coolant efficiency, which have both lit up. Once the coolant efficiency reaches 0, that basically means all of your coolant has leaked out, and the coolant leak rate just tells you how fast it leaks out. Now, this is not the same as not having a radiator, though. It's worth noting that, because the engine is able to cool itself at idle once all the coolant is gone, but it'll still overheat if you drive it hard, where the other one, it's not able to cool itself. It'll just overheat eventually no matter what. It's gonna happen. But this one, for example, you see, oh, we got a little bit of cylinder wall damage, but we let up on the gas, and the temperature of the cylinder wall is able to drop down pretty fast. But once we get back on the gas, it raises up there fast, and it starts to overheat, and it starts to cause damage to the cylinder walls. And I guess what we could do is just kind of drive it hard for a bit and give you an idea of how long the car will last once all of the coolant is leaked out. So right there, boom, cylinder wall damage is full, and then block damage is occurring. So at this point, the car is going to be about 3/4 of its normal speed. Now it's about half of its normal speed. And now all you need to do is wait on the connecting rod bearings to become damaged, which do take a while. You see the oil temperature is only at 107 degrees Celsius at this point. So we can still drive this thing around for quite a while before it actually overheats enough to become immobilized, it seems like. But it is severely slowed down after that initial impact and having things overheat. And it's worth noting, though, that there's nothing that really tells you when something is starting to become damaged on the screen unless you have the debug app up. Another thing that's cool is if you have a car like the Drag Moonhawk, which isn't made to really be driven for extended periods of time, it will overheat really fast. Like if you watch the coolant number, it's already in the yellow and it keeps raising real fast. If you watch the coolant gauge in the bottom right, you can actually see it move as we drive. You can just watch it and it's going up and it's going up and it's going up. And if it gets high enough, that will churn red saying, hey, your engine's starting to overheat. And I'm going to try to get that to happen, but I'm afraid I'm going to hit the wall beforehand, so we're going to have to slow down. And it does cool off really fast. Like you see, it was just starting to go real low, real quick, and oh, just barely clearing that wall beautifully. So I think we'll be able to see the light come on right about here, though. Watch for that light. Boom, red light is on. Then we slam on our brakes, and then the light goes off. Also, it's also worth mentioning the little interior gauge is also connected up, right? So you accelerate and decelerate, and it'll move. And the gauge I'm talking about is the one in the bottom right below the tachometer. So as we accelerate, you see it getting hotter and hotter and hotter, and it's saying, oh my goodness, it's in the warning zone. But I'm still accelerating because you can't tell me what to do. And I think it starts to cool off slower and slower as the rest of the components heat up a little bit. But the difference is pretty minimal with a radiator this good, so it's kind of hard to show that. And eventually, if it gets hot enough, we can get the engine to smoke, but I think we're just going to run out of roads with this thing. It's not even going to get hot enough for that to happen ever. Because the problem is we have to slow down or else we'll crash all the time. Definitely a detriment to our abilities to overheat this thing. I'm actually surprised it's so good at staying cool. Like, it's not one of those cars, all right, we took a pass, take a 10-minute break for it to cool off. It could keep going. It could keep going, man. They could remove the radiator, do a pass, and be okay maybe, just if they wait long enough. Well, that's not good. Well, there's some smoke coming from the engine now. And there's some fire coming from the engine as well. But there you go. You can also see, though, the engines can now smoke when they get damaged. They have never done that before. And as the perfect example of that, also has caught fire. But it's upside down. I don't want it to be upside down. Get it right side up. Oh, I've tried to rip the tire off. Right side up. Right side up. Easier said than done, isn't it? Come on. Oh, you know, I can't do it when the camera's attached to the car. It just makes everything so awkward. Like, if I just go like this, look how easy and gentle that looked. That's how you perfectly do it. And now we can go ahead and reset the car. I think that gives you a pretty good overview of how the thermal simulation stuff works. The next thing that's kind of interesting is the way resetting the car works with Control R. So if we're on an incline like this or something and reset the car, it keeps that angle. If we spin the car around in a different direction and reset it, it keeps that direction. One side effect of this, though, is if you have your car flipped over like this, you can no longer use Control R to get it upright. Instead, you're either going to have to use the node grabbing feature like that to flip it over, or you could also use the vehicle recovery key of insert to flip it over as well. But if you accidentally Control R the car while it's upside down, the only way to flip it upright that I can tell is using the node grabbing feature. Otherwise, it will just be upside down even after you do the vehicle recovery thing like this. But you can see the vehicle recovery, it'll keep the rotation as well. So if you're upside down, you let go of the vehicle recovery, it's going to stay like that. But it's kind of cool being able to like see exactly the path you took like this. Although it is really janky to actually try to watch it, it's kind of cool seeing the exact flight path like that, I thought. But that's a new feature that's probably going to take me a while to get used to. I'm used to flip my car over like that. I bet you for the next 10 videos or so, I'll be trying to flip my car over using that. Be like, wait, that doesn't work anymore, because I've gotten very, very used to that. All right, let's crash this car, and then I think we have a good excuse to change the car. Although it's doing a pretty good job of not going to the wall I was going to crash it into. It's destroying itself, though, somehow. Like, I didn't expect to destroy it like that, but apparently that's the way it's going to break. While we're kind of on the topic of grabbing the nodes and stuff, one nice thing is when you go over the apps on the screen now, like this, it doesn't stop the nodes from being grabbed. Before, if you went like this over the speedometer, for example, it would just stop grabbing the node. And every now and then it would catch me off guard. I'd grab the node, go like this or something, it would just stop, and I wouldn't know why. I'd be like, oh yeah, I went over the app. But that's been fixed, and that's one of those small issues that got a little annoying to me, and it's awesome that it's been fixed. And now, since we're also on the topic of apps, there's a new app I wanted to show you. We don't need these ones anymore, so we could go ahead and get rid of those. The new one is actually kind of useless here, but it's the navigation app. So I'm going to go ahead and go to a different map where it'll work a little bit better, like Jungle Rock Island. Did I say Jungle Rock Island? I meant East Coast USA because this one has a lot more roads to really show off the navigation app. And it works very similar to the navigation in the ETK 800 series, which just shows all the roads around you and it allows you to know where the roads are. So like, there's a road right here and you could take this and then go left and then you'll be at the exact same spot as if you took a right at the next location, basically. Like, it just allows you to kind of have a better feeling for where things are and be able to navigate to where you want to go. It doesn't have any sort of like actual GPS system or anything like that. It just has what you see right there. And I'm trying to actually drive by just looking at the navigation. Like, that is a terrible, terrible thing to do because I'm going to be all over the place, but it's kind of fun to do that, actually. You know what? What if I made the app really, really big and just used it like that's it? Like, we're going to go all the way up there and we make it massive like that. And then we drive just looking at that. So I'm going to try my best not to look at the truck and only look at the blue arrow. I think I have enough precision here for this to actually work out. It seems like it's working pretty decently so far. I haven't crashed yet. I'm probably all over the road, but I honestly don't know. To me, it looks like I'm perfectly centered. That is all I want to do. I am doing a great job as far as I'm concerned, but I have no idea how I actually look like driving. This is actually kind of fun. It's like a 2D driving game. Oh, I just heard a crash. This is a real thin road. I should not be driving down this one. I need those thick ones like right here. Another thin one. Well, I don't even know where I'm going at this point. Oh, that's a bad crash. It's kind of fun doing that. It's totally stupid, but it is kind of fun. All right, we don't need this app taking up all of our space, though, so we'll just get rid of it. It's taking up the whole screen, literally. That's nice. And I guess we could go ahead and reset the truck as well. That about covers all of the major non-vehicle specific changes. As always, if you want a full list of changes, you can find it on the changelog, which is available in a few different places. I usually look at the changelog listed on the BeamNG.drive developers blog. So moving on to those vehicle-specific changes, there's a new version of the Barstow available called the Night Snake, which is a modified version of the King Snake, which gives it different wheels and racing slicks. So if I imagine it like this, you have the King Snake, that's your daily driver or something, then you're going to take it to the track or take it to autocross. That's when it becomes the Night Snake because you put your slicks on it and you get those really good tires and wheels and stuff, and it is in racing mode. And then when you bring it back home, it once again becomes the King Snake. At least that's the way I like to imagine it. And this car is a little twitchy, I'll point out, if you're using the keyboard. With a controller, it's totally fine to drive, but if you're using the keyboard, it's just a bit twitchy because of those racing slicks. So anyways, let's go ahead and just wreck this thing up a bit. There we go. That looks pretty decent. You can see there is some smoke coming out of the engine from that collision. I would assume the radiator broke, and then it's spewing coolant all over the place, which is then evaporating because the engine is warm. Next up is the Burnside Special, but as far as I can tell, that's the same as it's always been, so I'll move to the 200BX, which has a new version called the Demon, which is a hellish turbocharged beast with oversized racing slicks. So we can go ahead and spawn that up and take a look at it. And this thing's kind of funny the way it drives. Like, you got nothing from like 0 to 30 if you just kind of drive like that. Like, I'm flooring it, and then the turbo is spooled up, and then we take off. Like, that 0 to 30 probably takes as long as the 30 to like 80. It takes so long to get that first 30 if you don't like just drop the clutch on it or something. If you just take off real slowly like that, even though you're flooring it, it takes forever. And then once it starts going, it keeps going. It's like if I built a car. It's like, who needs low end when you got all this power in the high part? So we'll go ahead and try to wrap that around a tree, although that didn't wrap at all, actually. It did totally destroy the engine. It looks perfectly intact, but it is not driving at all after that impact. The 200BX also has a new skin for the police version, so we can take a look at that real quickly. It is the Special Pursuit Unit, if you want the full, correct, fancy name. And you can see it says Furwood Police Department. And if you wanted to, we could do something a little fun right here. We could set the AI to try to run away from me, and I'll try to stop them as a police officer, just to give a little bit of a use for the police version, even though it's pretty much the same. So we'll put them to flee, and then away we go. We're going to chase them down and take them out. See, look at that. I accelerate faster than them, like just starting. But if we had a straight race to 100, they would smoke me in the second half. Oh, no! They're going to take me out! No, they ain't. I took them out. Wow. That was lucky. Like, I just crashed right into the bridge right there. I thought I was going to crash so hard, but then I somehow saved it, and then they crashed instead. I got lucky. All right. So that's the police version, though. I can tell them to not do that anymore because it's not working for them, obviously. All you're doing is overheating your engine. Well, you're doing a pretty good job of overheating it. How is this thing still driving? Like, it does not look like it should drive. Those rear tires are so bent up. How is it still delivering power? That is crazy that this thing is still able to move. Although it is overheating so bad, it's just a plume of smoke as we drive, and I'm going as hard to the left as I possibly can, and it basically goes straight. Like, it drifts all on its own. You just drive in a straight line, it looks like it's drifting. It's that bent out of shape. That'd be kind of funny, actually, if you were to like tweak a car around enough where it would look like it's drifting everywhere it goes, but it's actually going perfectly straight. But yeah, that's what happens if I let go. It just spins out, and then it hits the back end, and it still drives. What? Hey, wait. It drives a little bit straighter now that both sides are pushed in. I fixed it. This thing is being amazingly durable, though. I am really impressed. Like, I don't know how the engine's still operating. It's been smoking for how long? Oh, we just lost a tire and really swung it around that tree. I think that has to have killed it, right? Like, the rear tire's not coming to a stop. But I don't think it's spinning from my engine, is it? Like, I can't tell because I can't make it stop. Brake. Brake. Okay, so the brakes on the rear wheels are done. So I have to assume it can't give it power either, right? Makes sense to me. Let's see. Hit the gas. And let's see what it does. Does it move faster? That is moving faster! Somehow it's still getting power down to that wheel. Hold on. It is, right? No, it was just an illusion. It was just an illusion. Alright, so that's the demon version, though. It's kind of crazy to drive. Next, we can take a look at the ETK 800 series, which has some new wheels on the 856TD version. So we can take a look at those. And there's also a new part that I want to take a look at. The new part is the light bar. And unfortunately, I don't know exactly where in the list it is. So just give me a second here to hopefully find it. And I think I missed it. Tow hitch, new. I'm looking for something that says empty. There it is, light bar. So then you could look like a police. Although it covers the sunroof. Like, my sunroof is ruined. Put a light bar over it. I can't use it now. That lights up if you wanted to. And it says, police, stop. I think that's the same light bar that was on another car as well. I don't think that's a unique light bar because I know I've seen the text before. Anyways, let's just crash this and then say we're done. That's all I wanted to show you, because that's all there is for that car. So then we can move on to the Grand Marshal, which as far as I could tell has no changes to it. It's the same as it's always been. So we'll go to the next one, which is the Corvette. And as far as I know, the only thing this has is a new optional oil cooler, which you could add to it, but that's not enough to really spawn it up. So we'll go to the next one, which is the Pessima, which has no changes that I know of. The Moonhawk has a new variant called the Elite Custom, which is a supercharged variant with body-colored trim and bumpers, heavy-duty suspension, and special wheels. I don't think any other version has the body-colored trim, though. So that might be unique to this one, but I don't really use this vehicle enough to know for certain. But it looks kind of funny in red, actually. Like, the red matches up so well with those brake lights. It almost looks like a toy car. Like, that's the best way I could describe it. That looks like a toy car to me because of that red color. And we could just drive this for a little bit, and then we'll just fall off a cliff accidentally or something. I think there's a little bit of a hole we can kind of just slip into and hit a tree soon. So, like, right there. We can actually fall off the cliff and see what happens. We're going to go in the water. And that kills the engine. Next car up is the older Ibishu Pessima. And the change on this one is it had a new hood on the custom, which you kind of saw a little bit earlier, so I'm not going to bother spawning that one up. Then we have the Ibishu Pigeon, which as far as I know, have no changes to it. Then we go to the SBR4. And this one just has a small change to its steering lock, so again, not something worth spawning up for. Then we move to the Sunburst, which has a new version actually available to us. It is the Drift Missile version, which is exclusively rear-wheel drive. Now, that is the only model available that is actually only rear-wheel drive, I will point out. And it says it's a stripped down with a welded rear differential and drift steering for a slightly unconventional drift car. So we can spawn that up in the stock color. Drive it around for a bit. So this is only rear-wheel drive, so we can slide it about all over the place nice and easy, but you don't have the easy recovery like you would of the all-wheel drive. And it's pretty fast. I mean, we're up to 60 miles per hour, and I'm just sliding all over the place, so you can see it gets up there pretty good. And something went wrong there. It felt like I couldn't steer left. I don't know why that was. That kind of felt weird. Like I was going left, and it didn't seem like it was like really understeering. It just seemed like it wasn't steering. Huh. I don't know. Either way, I have damaged the car, so that's a pretty big inconvenience. So let's just damage it some more. Right around the tree, and somehow still driving. This roll cage gave it enough structural strength, I think, to be able to keep driving somehow after that. I have to assume this engine is going to overheat, but I don't think I can actually steer this much for it to be of any use. Yeah, I'm trying to go to the other direction, but it's just going to keep going into that tree forever until it flips over. So that's all we're going to do with that one. So now we can take a look at the other versions of Sunburst I wanted to take a peek at. The Rally version has a new skin for it, so we can take a look at that. Looks pretty cool in the white color. We could show you what it looks like in a different color as well. So we could try to pick a color and hope it's the right one. There, that's what it would look like if it was green. So it kind of comes through with the blue a little bit with the green. How about yellow? A little brighter maybe, and it might work. That works, yeah. Less chrominess. More chrominess. I don't know. So that's kind of what it looks like with a few different color options, though. Like to do that with the skins with colors so you can see what it would look like. Next up is the custom version, which has another new skin for it on the roof and on the sides and on the front. Mostly the roof. We have a little bit of stuff over there. And then you have a thing right here. It says, made in Hirochi. Got, yeah, dampers are good. And then you got something over here that says plus 7 horsepower sticker. Wouldn't it be great if it actually did add 7 horsepower when you put that skin on? Like, that's one of those dumb things that'd be kind of funny if they actually did that. I don't know. But the variant itself has been here for a while, I believe, so I'm not going to do any driving. So next up is the Bolide, which has some new graphics on the 390 GTR right along the bottom, which I don't think were there before. Take a quick look at those on a white car. Looks pretty nice. Then moving on to the next one, we have the D series. And for the D series, I don't believe there were any changes to it, so we'll just skip along to the next one, which is the Roamer. This one has a body colored trim option and a sport version now. So we could take a look at the sport version. We'll get in a little bit brighter of a color, like aquamarine blue. So this one has the body colored trim, so you can see what that looks like right there on the vehicle. And we can drive it around just for a bit so you can see what does a sport SUV look like. It still feels like an SUV. It's still an SUV. I don't care what label you give it, it's an SUV. It's a faster version of an SUV, but it's still an SUV. And it gets to be wrapped around a tree just like every other vehicle. I like that tree. Good hit. Does it drive? Yes, it will. Wow. These cars are holding up in surprising ways. Like, I would think something like that would have been able to somehow damage the engine, but it seems like it was able to just take the impact with the body of the vehicle, and it keeps driving reasonably well, even, although it is smoking. Not a good sign. Not a good sign at all. So how about we just say, you know what, this car's broken, let's just dump it. Now, if this still drives, I'll be really impressed. That was a... What? It does? No way! That thing was given a wrecking, and it's still... Whoa! It still wants to drive, but I don't know if it can. It's kind of stuck in the tree, isn't it? No, I don't want the bumper. Well, it is stuck in a tree, but it would drive if it wasn't. I'm trying to get it out in the most violent way possible, as you can see. Come on! Oh, I can't put power down to the right wheels. You know what? Let's just teleport it then. Oh, that's right! Sometimes when you teleport the car, it does repair itself now. So, like, the using F7 to teleport does work sometimes, but other times it'll repair the car, and I haven't exactly figured out what causes it to repair it and what doesn't. I think it has to do with, like, if it's the first time you've used it or something, it will repair the car. But, like, if we drive around for a bit, wreck it again, then teleport it, it stays damaged. I forgot about that thing. Anyways, next vehicle will be the T-Series. And for the T-Series, I believe there were no changes once again. So we'll go to the last one, which is the H-Series. for the H series. The tire on the H45 was placed in a different location. So let's see if we could find that, because I actually haven't looked for it yet. How hard could it be to find a tire, though? There it is. Where was it before? Yeah, I honestly don't know, but there is the tire. And that covers all of the vehicle-specific changes. There is a new steering wheel you can get, by the way, for most vehicles. I don't know about this one, but I know you can get it on some of the more sporty vehicles. Let's see here. Heavy-duty, this, nope, body. And steering wheel, let's see. Do we have the new one? It's called the Legno Classic Co. So there's that new steering wheel that you can put on any vehicle. Look pretty fancy. Totally doesn't fit the look of this vehicle at all, but it does look nice. And we could drop this off the same cliff we dropped the other one off if we would have made it, but it didn't, so we don't drop it off the cliff because of that. The way it's bouncing is kind of funny. So that about covers it for this update, although there is one more thing I want to do real quickly, and to do that we're going to go to Leap of Death, and I'm going to set things up, and I'll see you once it's set up. One more thing while I'm setting everything up at Leap of Death, there are new scenarios, and I'll be doing them in a separate video as I usually do. The idea here is real simple. I got all the cars you've just seen in the video, and we're going to put them all off of Leap of Death all at once, and the easiest way to do this is to use the Wind app. You could try to drive them all, but that would be a huge pain. Instead, we'll just grab the Wind, put it to 180 degrees in this direction, and then go max it out, and they should all basically go forward. And we can get a little bit of slow-mo here because it helps the frame rate, and it makes it more easy to see what's going on. But it does help the frame rate, because with this many cars, you're going to have a bad frame rate pretty much no matter what. And one of the bumpers is just flying away. Let me try getting behind it. And I really like when you freeze physics, by the way. It's silent now instead of being really loud and annoying. Because before you'd freeze physics to look at something, you just hear like the sound of the crash like repeating and repeating and repeating, and it'd get annoying. Now I don't do that no more. So that's kind of nice. Get another nice angle on this. Like, look at all those cars, man. They're just flying all over the place. That's beautiful. And then they go at full speed. And the red one actually did a pretty good job. The demon. Oh, by the way, they're not exactly going to hit the ground. They're just going to keep going forward for a long time because of the wind. In fact, they might just all fall into the crater mostly, it looks like. Well, at least the one I'm in might. They keep going. Wow. Anyways, though, that'll do it for this video. So till next time, this has been WhyBeAre. I'll see ya. Oh, that frame rate's killing me, man. The cars are hitting the wall and it's just killing it. Anyways, I'll see ya.